The car rolled along the winding roads of Asheville, the Blue Ridge Parkway stretching out like a painted canvas before us. The vibrant hues of autumn leaves clung to the trees, their fiery reds and oranges reflecting the warmth I longed for but seldom found. My husband, Jack, drove with a steady hand, his focus fixed on the road ahead. I watched him, noticing the way his brow furrowed slightly with concentration, as if he were navigating not just the curves in the asphalt but also the complexities of our marriage. We were on our way to a family retreat, a weekend designed to reconnect and rejuvenate amidst nature's beauty. The idea had been Jack's, an attempt to bridge the widening gap that had formed between us over the years. Yet as we approached our destination, I felt an unsettling sense of isolation creeping in. The chatter of our children filled the car with a false sense of cheerfulness that only deepened my loneliness. Arriving at our cabin felt surreal. The rustic charm surrounded by towering pines was meant to be inviting, yet it felt like a stage set for a play I no longer wanted to perform in. As everyone settled in, laughter echoed around me, but it was muffled by my own thoughts, a cacophony of memories and regrets. I wandered outside onto the porch, seeking solace in the crisp air. It was then that I spotted him, my father-in-law, Tom. He stood at the edge of the property, gazing out at the sprawling view before him. Tom had always been an enigma to me. He carried an air of quiet strength and wisdom that drew people in. Yet there was something else beneath that calm exterior, a hint of sadness that mirrored my own. "Beautiful day," he said without turning around as I approached. I nodded, unsure how to respond. It felt strange to engage with him outside of family gatherings where conversation often revolved around mundane topics or surface-level pleasantries. But here, away from prying eyes and judgmental ears, something shifted within me. "I've always loved this place," I finally managed to say. "The mountains remind me of simpler times." He turned to face me then, his eyes reflecting understanding rather than pity. "Yes," he replied softly. "They hold stories, ours and others." His words hung in the air between us like an unspoken invitation. In that moment, we both recognized an uncharted territory ripe for exploration, our shared longing for connection amidst our respective emotional voids. As dusk fell and shadows danced across the cabin walls, we gravitated toward each other more frequently than usual during dinner preparations and casual conversations over coffee. The warmth between us grew palpable. It was as if we were two ships lost at sea who had finally found each other's light amid turbulent waters. A sudden rainstorm swept through later that evening, trapping us inside together while Jack entertained our children elsewhere. The rhythmic patter against the roof created an intimate cocoon around us as we sat near the fireplace watching flames flicker and crackle. Tom shared stories about his late wife, tales filled with laughter and love that painted vivid pictures in my mind. Each memory he recounted felt like an echo of my own lost emotions. His vulnerability mirrored my yearning for deeper connections. "Sometimes I wonder if she would have wanted me to move on," he mused quietly after sharing a particularly poignant anecdote about their first date. I hesitated before responding. My heart raced as conflicting feelings surged within me, the weight of guilt intertwined with a desire for understanding that had long eluded me in my marriage. "I think love doesn't just disappear," I said cautiously. "It transforms into something different." Tom looked at me then, not just seeing but truly observing, and for a fleeting moment, it felt as though we were suspended in time together, two souls reaching out across an emotional chasm carved by life's circumstances. But just as quickly as it began, reality intruded upon our fragile connection when thunder rumbled ominously overhead. The power flickered briefly before plunging us into darkness. Only the glow from embers remained illuminating our faces against shadows cast upon one another. "What now?" he asked softly after several moments passed in silence. I shrugged lightly despite feeling tension coil tightly within me like a spring ready to snap, the storm outside mirroring my internal chaos perfectly. "Maybe we should find some candles," I suggested awkwardly while attempting to deflect attention from what lingered unspoken between us. As we moved through dimly lit rooms searching for light sources together, the closeness ignited something unexpected within me, a spark that ignited curiosity tinged with apprehension about where this newfound intimacy could lead us both next. Just then, a crack of lightning illuminated Tom's face, momentarily revealing emotions etched deeply within his features. Hope mingled with fear reflected back at me from those familiar eyes which had seen so much yet remained open enough still for possibility even amidst sorrowful memories long held dear. In those fleeting seconds before darkness enveloped us once more, I caught myself wondering if perhaps this retreat would unravel more than just old family stories. It could also lead towards revelations neither one of us anticipated or desired deep down inside yet craved nonetheless desperately beneath layers built over years spent apart emotionally speaking. The storm raged on outside while inside, I sensed something brewing between Tom and myself, a potential shift into unknown territories laden with promise yet fraught with peril too daunting perhaps even now despite its allure lingering faintly still. The rain continued to pour, creating a rhythmic symphony against the windows. The sound wrapped around us like a soft blanket, muffling the world outside. Tom and I sat across from each other in the dim light of the cabin, the flickering flames of the fireplace casting dancing shadows on our faces. It was a strange intimacy, one that felt both familiar and foreign. I glanced at Tom, his expression contemplative as he stared into the fire. Memories of family gatherings flooded my mind, hushed laughter, shared meals, and moments of connection that had faded over time. Yet here we were, two people bound by circumstance, seeking solace in each other's presence amidst a storm. "Do you remember that summer at the lake?" he asked suddenly, breaking the silence. His voice was soft but carried an undercurrent of nostalgia. I nodded slowly, recalling the warmth of sun-soaked days spent with family. "We all had such fun," I replied, trying to keep my tone light despite the heaviness settling in my chest. Tom's gaze met mine, and for an instant, I felt a spark, a shared understanding of our respective lonelinesses. The walls I had built around my emotions began to crack as vulnerability seeped through. He wasn't just my father-in-law, he was a man who had experienced loss and longing too. "I miss those days," he admitted quietly. "Things seemed simpler then." I could feel his yearning resonate within me. My marriage had become a series of routines punctuated by silence rather than conversation. Jack was often preoccupied with work or lost in his own thoughts. In contrast, sitting here with Tom felt like stepping into an uncharted territory filled with possibilities. The air thickened between us as we exchanged stories about our families, stories tinged with laughter but also laced with regret. I found myself leaning forward, captivated by Tom's words as he recounted tales of his late wife, the way she would dance in the kitchen or her infectious laughter that echoed through their home. "I never thought I'd find myself alone at this stage in life," he said softly, his eyes distant as if looking back through time. "Neither did I replied before I could stop myself. The honesty slipped out unbidden, a confession born from shared grief. In that moment, everything shifted. The weight of our respective losses hung heavy in the air, drawing us closer together while simultaneously pushing against boundaries we had long respected. My heart raced as I contemplated what lay beneath this newfound connection, an emotional bond that felt dangerously close to crossing an unspoken line. Tom leaned slightly closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've always been so strong for everyone else." I couldn't help but chuckle softly at that observation. Strength often masked vulnerability, a facade I wore well for years now. "Sometimes it's exhausting," I admitted truthfully. He nodded slowly, understanding etched on his face as if he too bore similar burdens beneath his composed exterior. And then it happened, an unexpected moment that changed everything between us. We kissed. The world outside faded into oblivion as our lips met tenderly yet hesitantly, a brief collision of longing and confusion that sent shockwaves through my body. Time stood still for what felt like an eternity before reality crashed back and like a wave pulling me under, I pulled away abruptly, breathless and wide-eyed at what we had just done. What have we done? My voice trembled slightly as guilt washed over me like cold water. Tom looked equally stunned, but there was something else in his eyes, an acknowledgement of shared desire mingled with fear. I don't know, he stammered softly. Panic surged within me as emotions spiraled out of control. This wasn't supposed to happen, not here among family nor during this retreat meant for healing old wounds. Yet there it was, raw and undeniable, our connection igniting something deep within both of us that had long lain dormant. As if sensing my turmoil, Tom reached out tentatively to touch my hand resting on the table between us. Warmth radiated from his fingers, igniting sparks along my skin while simultaneously sending jolts of anxiety racing through me. We shouldn't, I started but faltered under his gaze. The intensity swirling between us made it hard to think clearly. Maybe we need to talk about what just happened, he suggested cautiously, but there was no mistaking the hope flickering behind those words. A desire to explore whatever this strange bond could mean beyond mere attraction or comfort found amid grief. Yet guilt clawed at me relentlessly. I thought about Jack waiting somewhere outside this cabin, unaware of what transpired within these walls. How could I betray him like this? But then again, hadn't I already betrayed myself by allowing distance to grow between us? I don't know how to navigate this, I confessed finally after several moments laden with tension stretching taut between us like an elastic band ready to snap at any moment. Tom sighed deeply before releasing my hand reluctantly. It felt like letting go of something vital yet fragile all at once, a tether connecting us now severed by uncertainty looming large over everything else swirling around us, both emotionally speaking. Outside, thunder rumbled ominously overhead while flashes lit up darkened skies above. Nature mirrored chaos brewing inside me perfectly, the storm outside reflecting turmoil raging within my heart and mind alike. Let's take some time apart tonight, he suggested, eventually breaking through silence again, though it felt hollow somehow despite its practicality. It seemed necessary given everything unfolding so quickly without warning. Right, time apart sounds good, I echoed numbly, though uncertainty lingered thickly still. A bittersweet taste left behind after such an unexpected moment shared together now hanging heavily over both our heads. As night crept enshrouding Asheville in darkness outside, I retreated into solitude, seeking refuge away from questions lingering unanswered still while grappling with consequences stemming from choices made impulsively earlier tonight. As the night deepened, I sat alone in the dimly lit corner of our rented cabin, the crackling fire casting flickering shadows across the walls. The weight of what had just transpired pressed heavily on my chest. I could still feel the warmth of his lips lingering, a reminder that everything had shifted. The familiar sounds of laughter from the rest of the family felt distant, as if they belonged to another world entirely. I picked up my phone, scrolling aimlessly through photos from earlier that day. Images of smiling faces, my husband Jack's easy laugh, and the kids playing in the yard blurred together as I searched for something, clarity perhaps? Instead, I found myself staring at a picture of Jack's late mother, her vibrant smile frozen in time. She had been a force in our lives, her absence left a void that we all felt deeply. But now, it felt like her memory was haunting this moment between me and my father-in-law. The photo stirred something within me, a mixture of guilt and longing. How could I reconcile these feelings? I glanced at the fireplace, where embers glowed softly, mirroring the turmoil inside me. My thoughts drifted back to our conversation earlier that evening, how we had shared stories about loss and love over glasses of wine. There was an intimacy in those exchanges that felt both comforting and dangerous. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out into the darkness enveloping Asheville. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, their silhouettes dancing against the moonlit sky. It was beautiful yet starkly lonely, a reflection of my own emotional state. As I turned back toward the room, I caught sight of him standing just outside. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. His presence sent a rush of conflicting emotions through me. Part of me wanted to run away from this situation, the other part craved more connection, more understanding. "Sure," I replied softly. We moved to sit on opposite ends of a small wooden table that separated us but felt like an unbridgeable gap at that moment. The air was thick with unspoken words as we both struggled to find our footing in this new territory. "I didn't mean for things to escalate," he began hesitantly. "But there's something about you, something familiar." His gaze dropped to his hands resting on the table. I nodded slowly. His words resonated with my own thoughts swirling inside my mind. "I feel it too," I admitted quietly. "But what does it mean for us?" He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair as if trying to comb through his thoughts. "I don't know," he confessed finally. "But being here with you, it feels different." The tension between us thickened as silence enveloped us once more. Memories flooded back. Moments spent with Jack when we first fell in love and how those feelings had dulled over time amidst responsibilities and routines. Then he reached for something from his pocket. A small framed photograph of his late wife surfaced onto the table between us like an unwelcome guest at our private gathering. Her bright smile seemed to mock our current predicament. "I found this earlier," he said quietly, eyes locked on her face rather than mine. "It reminded me how much she loved family, how much she wanted us all to be close." The photograph stirred a pang of sadness within me, not just for him but for myself too. It highlighted everything we had lost over time: connection, intimacy, love itself. "I miss her every day," he continued softly, almost as if speaking to himself rather than me now. "I know," I whispered back without thinking, my heart aching for him while grappling with my own feelings swirling dangerously close beneath the surface. Our gazes locked then. There was an electric charge lingering in the air around us, a fragile thread holding us together despite everything else threatening to pull us apart again. In an impulsive moment fueled by emotion rather than logic or reason, our lips met once more, a soft collision igniting sparks that spread throughout my body like wildfire consuming dry grasslands under summer sun rays, hot and uncontrollable yet utterly intoxicating all at once. This kiss carried weight beyond mere attraction. It spoke volumes about our shared longing for connection amid life's complexities and disappointments. The desire for understanding where none seemed possible before tonight unfolded before us like pages torn from storybooks left unread until now. As we pulled away breathless yet aware that boundaries were being tested beyond recognition, I could see confusion mirrored in his eyes alongside something deeper, an acknowledgement that whatever this was between us could not be easily dismissed or forgotten come morning light breaking over Asheville's horizon. "What do we do now?" he asked, finally breaking through silence again, but this time laden with uncertainty rather than hopefulness previously shared moments ago. I shook my head slightly unsure how to answer. This wasn't just about us anymore. It involved family dynamics intertwined intricately like threads woven into fabric too delicate to unravel without consequences rippling outward beyond ourselves. "Maybe we should take some time apart?" I suggested hesitantly, fearing judgment yet knowing instinctively distance might provide clarity needed moving forward without losing sight entirely. "Right, time apart sounds good," he echoed numbly though uncertainty lingered thickly still, a bittersweet taste left behind after such an unexpected moment shared together now hanging heavily over both our heads. A sudden gust blew open one window nearby sending chills racing down spines exposed too long beneath heated emotions boiling over silently. It felt symbolic somehow. The outside world intruding upon intimate moments shared within these walls meant solely for refuge against storms brewing outside. As night crept enshrouding Asheville in darkness outside, I retreated into solitude seeking refuge away from questions lingering unanswered still while grappling with consequences stemming from choices made impulsively earlier tonight. The festival lights twinkled like stars against the darkening sky, casting a warm glow over the streets of Asheville. Laughter and music floated through the air, mingling with the sweet scent of caramel apples and roasted corn. I stood beside him, feeling an odd mix of excitement and dread. The vibrant colors around us were a stark contrast to the gray cloud that had settled in my heart since our last encounter. "Do you remember coming here with your wife?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. The question felt heavy, laden with unspoken emotions. He glanced at me, his expression unreadable. "We used to come every summer." His voice was soft, almost wistful. She loved the crafts fair. I could see it then, the flicker of nostalgia in his eyes as he scanned the stalls filled with handmade pottery and intricate jewelry. A part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort him in that moment. But another part recoiled, reminding me of the boundaries we had crossed. As we wandered through the festival, I found myself drawn into conversations about art and life choices, topics that felt deceptively safe yet deeply revealing. Each shared story seemed to draw us closer together, weaving an invisible thread between our hearts that neither of us dared to acknowledge openly. "Look at that," he said suddenly, pointing toward a booth displaying handmade quilts. "She would have adored those patterns." I nodded, feeling a swell of empathy for his loss, an emotion that felt both genuine and self-serving. I longed for connection, yet I was haunted by the reality of what lay beneath our growing bond. The laughter around us faded into background noise as we stood there in a bubble of shared memories and unspoken desires. "Let's get something to eat," he suggested after a moment's silence. As we moved toward a food stall selling hot dogs and funnel cakes, I tried to shake off the weight pressing down on my chest. We ordered our food and found a quiet corner where we could sit away from the crowd's bustle. "What do you think?" he asked as he bit into his hot dog. "Is it worth coming back next year?" I chuckled lightly but felt an edge in my voice. "If we're still invited." The words hung between us like an unacknowledged truth. He looked at me thoughtfully before taking another bite. "Family is complicated," he replied slowly. The conversation shifted back to lighter topics. We discussed local artists and upcoming shows in Asheville. Yet underneath it all was an undeniable tension simmering just below the surface, a tension born from our previous encounters and lingering glances that spoke volumes more than words ever could. As night fell deeper around us, I found myself lost in thought while watching families gather for fireworks lighting up the sky above us like vibrant bursts of color against darkness, a stark reminder of life's fleeting moments filled with joy and sorrow intertwined. "Let's go find a spot for fireworks," he said suddenly, breaking my reverie. We walked hand in hand through throngs of people until we reached a clearing on a hill overlooking the festival grounds below. There was something exhilarating about being so close yet so far from everyone else at that moment. A sense of freedom mingled with fear as anticipation built within me. As fireworks exploded overhead, each burst illuminating our faces, I felt an overwhelming urge to lean closer to him. Perhaps it was merely instinct or perhaps something deeper stirring within me that demanded acknowledgement after years spent hiding behind walls built from pain and regret. "Beautiful," I murmured as sparks rained down like glittering stars against velvet skies, a fitting metaphor for everything swirling inside me at this moment, beauty intertwined with chaos threatening to erupt if not contained carefully enough. "I've missed this," he admitted quietly after several moments passed where neither spoke, just watched together side by side lost amid swirling colors above us while grappling internally with what had transpired between us earlier during our retreat away from home. Before I knew it, before logic could intervene, I turned slightly toward him. His gaze caught mine as if magnetically drawn together despite all reason screaming against it, and without thinking further about consequences, we kissed. The world around us faded away, fireworks became mere background noise drowned out by pounding hearts echoing louder than any explosion above. Time stood still enveloping us both within warmth radiating from one another despite chill settling around outside. But reality crashed back quickly like thunder rumbling ominously overhead once we pulled apart, each breath heavy laden with awareness that lingered long after lips separated leaving behind traces lingering sweetly yet tainted now by guilt creeping back into consciousness reminding me who exactly stood beside me. "We should get going," I suggested abruptly, trying desperately to reclaim control over spiraling thoughts. Threatening clarity needed amidst chaos brewing deep down inside me, now exposed rawly beneath surface previously hidden away so carefully until tonight. As we walked back toward where others gathered again, their laughter ringing out against backdrop filled with color fading slowly into night, I couldn't shake feeling like shadows danced around edges, threatening encroachment upon fragile peace restored only moments before. What had begun innocently enough had morphed into something far more complex than either of us anticipated, yet somehow exhilaratingly terrifying all at once, leaving questions unanswered swirling endlessly within dark corners left unexplored even still despite everything laid bare before each other now. The night wore on, but unease settled heavily across my shoulders like leaden fog refusing escape no matter how brightly lights shone overhead, illuminating faces surrounding us, unaware, completely oblivious regarding turmoil brewing beneath surface, held tightly together by thin threads now fraying dangerously close towards breaking point looming ahead just beyond reach. Then came whispers carried through air laden thickly with anticipation, a chance encounter waiting just around corner, poised ready strike when least expected. "Let's go back," I urged, suddenly feeling urgency rise sharply within, wanting distance from chaotic energy buzzing all around, threatening drown out clarity sought desperately now more than ever before. But as we turned away, the echoes fading behind drew nearer still. My phone buzzed harshly against palm, startling both jolting thoughts sharply back into focus, snapping attention towards reality, creeping in swiftly, demanding acknowledgement long pushed aside until this very moment when nothing remained hidden anymore. It wasn't just any message, it was one from Jack. The message from Jack lingered in the air, a ghostly reminder of my life back home. The screen lit up with his words, and I hesitated before reading. "Hope you're having fun. Can't wait to see you." A simple message, yet it carried the weight of our shared history, the memories of a life that felt increasingly distant. I tucked the phone away, heart racing, as if I had been caught in the act. The room felt smaller now, filled with unspoken words and unacknowledged emotions. I glanced at my father-in-law, who seemed lost in thought, perhaps reflecting on his own family and the void left by his late wife. The silence between us grew heavy, charged with the tension of our recent encounters. We had crossed lines that were never meant to be crossed. Each moment together had unraveled a thread in the fabric of our lives. I pondered what would happen when we returned home. Would this weekend remain a secret tucked away like an old photograph? Or would it haunt us like a specter in every family gathering? As we made our way to breakfast, the familiar smells of coffee and bacon wafted through the air, but they did little to ease my unease. I noticed my sister-in-law and her husband seated at a corner table, their laughter echoed softly around us. My heart sank as they waved us over, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. "Join us," my sister-in-law called out cheerfully. "We were just talking about last night's festival." I forced a smile as we approached their table. The conversation flowed easily for them, filled with anecdotes about the music and food stalls we had all visited together. But for me, each word felt like a reminder of what I was hiding, a secret that threatened to unravel everything. "Did you two enjoy your time?" my brother-in-law asked innocently enough. "Very much," my father-in-law replied smoothly, casting a quick glance at me. His eyes held a mixture of warmth and something deeper, an understanding that only added to my turmoil. I nodded along but felt disconnected from their joviality. The weight of Jack's message pressed down on me like an anchor, pulling me back into reality. Guilt gnawed at my insides, every laugh around me felt like an accusation against my choices. As breakfast continued, I stole glances at my father-in-law when he wasn't looking, his brow furrowed slightly as he listened to his children talk about their plans for the day ahead. In those fleeting moments, I could see the man he once was before loss had shaped him into someone quieter and more reserved. When breakfast ended and we stood to leave, I caught sight of Jack's message again. His words now felt like chains binding me to a life that no longer fit comfortably around me. The thought of returning home loomed over me like dark clouds threatening rain, it was inevitable and frightening all at once. We walked back toward our rooms in silence, each step echoed with unspoken fears about what awaited us outside this bubble we'd created for ourselves over the weekend. As we reached our door, I turned to him impulsively. "Do you think they suspect anything?" My voice was barely above a whisper. He hesitated before responding. There was something vulnerable in his gaze as he considered how much honesty he could afford without risking everything we had stumbled into together. "I don't know," he finally said slowly. "But if they do, it could change everything." His words hung between us like an uninvited guest at dinner, awkward yet unavoidable. We both knew that whatever connection we had forged here could not survive under scrutiny from our families. The rest of the morning passed in a blur as I packed up our things and prepared for checkout. My mind raced with thoughts about how to navigate this delicate situation once we returned home, how to reconcile this newfound connection with the reality of family ties and expectations. As we loaded our bags into the car outside the hotel, Jack's phone buzzed unexpectedly in his pocket, a sound that sent jolts of anxiety through me again as if fate were conspiring against us now that we were leaving this sanctuary behind. He pulled it out quickly but frowned upon reading whatever message flashed across his screen. Concern etched itself deeper into his features. "What is it?" I asked cautiously. "It's just work stuff," he replied too quickly, slipping his phone back into his pocket without elaborating further. I sensed there was more beneath that surface-level excuse, a layer of stress brought on by responsibilities waiting for him back home too heavy for either one of us to bear alone right now. The drive back felt endless despite being surrounded by beautiful landscapes, the Blue Ridge Parkway unfurling its majesty before us while inside my mind swirled confusion about what awaited us once this journey ended completely. With every mile marker passed came another wave crashing over me. Should I confess everything? Would honesty shatter our fragile connection or strengthen it somehow? When we finally arrived home after what felt like hours spent lost within ourselves rather than truly connecting, it hit me hard how much time apart from Jack would only amplify these questions left unanswered between us both. And then there it was, a familiar sight greeted us upon stepping through our front door. Jack's phone buzzed again insistently on the kitchen counter where he'd left it behind earlier this morning. This time though, I couldn't ignore its significance anymore. Curiosity mingled dangerously with dread as I stepped closer while he remained distracted by unloading luggage from our car outside. Just before picking up that device resting there, it buzzed one last time. A name appeared across its screen, Elizabeth. I stared at the screen, my heart racing as I contemplated the implications of Elizabeth's message. The weight of our weekend hung heavily in the air, and now, this text felt like a noose tightening around my neck. How could I respond? What could I say that wouldn't unravel everything? I took a deep breath and tried to steady my trembling fingers. The words on the screen seemed to pulse with life, taunting me. "Are you okay?" was all it said. Yet, it felt like an accusation, a reminder of the emotional chasm that had opened up between me and my husband, Jack. The silence in our living room was deafening. Jack had gone to bed early, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I could hear the clock ticking steadily, each second amplifying the knot in my stomach. My mind drifted back to Asheville, the laughter, the moments shared with his father that blurred lines I never thought would be crossed. I hesitated before typing back a simple yes. But even as I hit send, guilt washed over me like a cold wave. Elizabeth deserved honesty, she had always been a good wife to Jack. But how could I explain what had transpired without shattering everything? A few moments later, my phone buzzed again. "Just checking in on you," she replied. The warmth in her words contrasted sharply with the chill creeping into my bones. She was concerned about me, yet here I was hiding secrets that could destroy our family. I set the phone down and glanced around our home, a place filled with memories and echoes of laughter that now felt foreign. It was hard to reconcile these walls with the emotions swirling inside me. The cozy living room that once brought comfort now felt like a prison. Jack entered just then, rubbing his eyes as he shuffled toward me. "You're still up?" he asked softly. "Couldn't sleep," I replied too quickly. He studied me for a moment before nodding slowly. "You've seemed distant lately," he said, his voice low but steady. The statement hung between us like a fragile thread ready to snap at any moment. Distant didn't even begin to cover it. I felt worlds away from him after what had happened with his father. "I'm fine," I insisted too forcefully. "Are you sure? You know you can talk to me." His concern was genuine, but it only intensified my internal struggle. "I just have a lot on my mind." My words were vague enough to avoid specifics, but heavy enough for him to sense something deeper. He sighed and leaned against the doorway, crossing his arms defensively. "Is this about your trip? You've been different since we got back." The tension in his voice made my heart race. He suspected something was wrong but didn't know its true nature. A part of me wanted to confess everything, to lay bare my soul and explain how I'd found solace in his father's company during our retreat, but fear held me back. "I think we just need some time," I finally said, trying for neutrality. Jack's expression shifted from concern to frustration as he pushed away from the doorframe. "Time? Or are you just avoiding whatever is bothering you?" His words stung more than they should have. They cut through layers of denial I'd built around myself since returning home. "It's complicated," I whispered, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "Complicated how?" "You're shutting me out." His voice rose slightly before he caught himself and lowered it again. "I'm not shutting you out." The words escaped before I could stop them, filled with an urgency that surprised us both. "Then what is it?" His tone softened again as he stepped closer, concern etched across his face. I hesitated, weighing whether to reveal even a fraction of what had transpired during our getaway, the stolen kisses and moments shared under stormy skies that ignited feelings long buried within me. Instead of speaking those truths aloud, however, another wave of guilt crashed over me. "We need to talk about us," I said instead, an evasive maneuver that bought time but left everything unresolved. His brow furrowed further as if trying to decipher my cryptic message behind layers of avoidance and fear. "What do you mean by US?" The question loomed large between us like an unbridgeable gap filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. My heart raced as uncertainty gripped me tightly once more. Before I could answer him properly or decide whether honesty would bring relief or ruin, Jack's phone buzzed on the table beside us, a jarring interruption in our fragile moment together. He glanced at it briefly before picking it up. His expression shifted as he read whatever message appeared on the screen. A flicker of confusion crossed his features before morphing into something darker, suspicion mixed with hurt. "What is it?" I asked cautiously, dread pooling low in my stomach as he stared at his phone longer than necessary. "It's from Elizabeth." His tone was flat now, disappointment laced through each word like poison seeping into open wounds between us. My heart sank as realization dawned upon him. She must have sensed something amiss during our conversations, or worse yet, suspected more than either Jack or I were willing to admit aloud right now. "What does she want?" My voice barely rose above a whisper as dread settled deeper within me like concrete shoes pulling me underwater, sinking slowly into darkness where secrets lay buried beneath layers of pain and regret waiting for exposure under harsh light once revealed. "She's worried about you," he replied tersely before glancing back down at his phone again, reading her messages silently while tension thickened around us like fog rolling into town at dusk, threatening clarity while obscuring truth all at once. A silence fell between us heavy enough that breathing became labored, a suffocating weight pressing down on both our chests until finally breaking free into an explosion neither expected nor wanted but desperately needed nonetheless. "Why didn't you tell her?" Jack's voice broke through first, the accusation sharp enough that it stung worse than any physical blow ever could. cutting through years spent building walls high enough they'd become impenetrable fortresses protecting hearts from breaking open wide. I didn't want her worrying unnecessarily. My defense came out instinctively, though truthfully, it sounded flimsy even as it left my lips echoing hollowly against walls painted bright yet dimming quickly under shadows cast by secrets long kept hidden. His eyes narrowed further still, but not just anger flickered there now. Disappointment mixed heavily alongside pain reflecting back toward me, reminding how far we'd drifted apart over time without realizing until standing here facing one another, raw, stripped bare, exposed like tender flesh laid open, waiting for healing yet fearing touch might only cause further harm instead. How can we fix this if we don't talk? He challenged, quietly staring straight into mine, seeking answers buried beneath layers built up over years spent avoiding confrontation rather than confronting demons lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for chance opportunity arise when least expected. I don't know, my voice faltered uncertainly, caught between wanting honesty while fearing repercussions stemming forth from revelations threatening everything we'd built together thus far. A beat passed, hanging suspended, heavy laden thick over space, separating two hearts yearning desperately reconnect while grappling simultaneously how best navigate treacherous waters ahead without capsizing altogether. And just then, a soft ping echoed through stillness, breaking tension, momentarily drawing attention back toward device still resting precariously atop table, awaiting response, prompting questions lingering unanswered, lingering long past time. What if she knows? Jack whispered, suddenly breaking silence once more, causing breath catch painfully tight within throat, constricting, rapidly suffocating, hope dwindling fast, fading beneath waves crashing relentlessly against shores, eroding foundations built upon trust shattered beyond repair, leaving nothing behind save echoes, memories haunting dark corners, minds unable escape. Caught off guard by sudden shift focus towards possibility lurking hidden among shadows cast forth by revelations threatening unravel entire fabric lives woven tightly together over years spent nurturing bonds forged strong resilient despite trials faced along way. I don't want her finding out. My admission slipped free unbidden, spilling forth too late, regretting immediately. Speaking truths meant remain buried deep below surface, concealed, well-protected realms, safe haven sought refuge within hearts yearning desperately connect despite barriers erected shielding. Vulnerability exposed, raw, aching, longing, desire, connection lost somewhere along path taken leading here today. As uncertainty loomed larger than ever before, we stood frozen amid swirling chaos surrounding us, grappling, desperately grasping hold tightly onto threads remaining, weaving fragile tapestry, lives intertwined, forever altered, irrevocably changed. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow in the room. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind a tumultuous sea of thoughts. The remnants of the previous days lingered like shadows, each moment replaying in vivid detail. My heart raced as I remembered the weight of my father-in-law's gaze and the unspoken words that hung between us. I reached for my phone, its screen illuminating with messages that felt like a lifeline and a noose all at once. Jack's text from last night echoed in my mind, his concerns about my emotional distance were palpable. But how could I explain to him the complexities swirling within me? He had always been good at providing stability, yet I craved something more. Something deeper than mere routine. With trembling hands, I opened my husband's message again. Are you okay? You seem distant. The words gnawed at me. Did he sense the shifting tides within our marriage? Or was this just another instance of him failing to see beyond the surface? My heart sank at the thought of disappointing him further. As I sat up, memories of that stolen kiss flooded back. We kissed, I whispered to myself, grappling with the implications of that moment. It was more than an impulsive act, it had ignited a spark that now flickered dangerously close to engulfing everything around us. I needed clarity, a moment to breathe without judgment or expectation. The coffee shop in town had always been my refuge amidst chaos. Perhaps there, among the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and soft chatter, I could find some semblance of peace. Dressed in simple jeans and a sweater, I stepped outside into the crisp morning air. Asheville was waking up slowly, the streets were lined with vibrant murals telling stories of love and loss. Each brushstroke resonated with my own internal struggle. How could I reconcile these conflicting desires? The familiar bell chimed as I entered the coffee house, greeted by warmth and laughter from patrons huddled around tables. I ordered a latte and settled into a quiet corner where sunlight spilled across polished wood floors. As I sipped my drink, thoughts drifted back to my father-in-law's face, the way his eyes softened when he spoke about his late wife and how easily we had connected over shared memories. Suddenly, he appeared at the entrance, looking for me amidst the crowd. My heart raced at his unexpected arrival. It felt like fate had conspired to bring us together once more. He spotted me and walked over with an expression that mirrored my own turmoil, conflicted yet hopeful. "Mind if I join you?" he asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," I replied, gesturing toward the empty seat across from me. As he settled down, an awkward silence enveloped us before he broke it with a hesitant smile. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I admitted, feeling exposed under his gaze. He leaned forward slightly as if trying to bridge an invisible gap between us. "I've been thinking about everything. What happened?" My stomach churned at his words. They held so much weight yet felt so fragile in this moment. "Me too," was all I could muster. We spoke in hushed tones about mundane topics, local art exhibits and upcoming festivals. But beneath our casual conversation lay an undercurrent of tension that neither of us dared acknowledge directly. Then he shifted gears abruptly, vulnerability flooding his features as he leaned back slightly in his chair. "You know, after losing her, I felt so alone." His voice cracked slightly as if revealing too much would shatter whatever tenuous connection we had built. My heart twisted painfully at his admission. Loneliness was something we both understood all too well. "I can relate," slipped out before I could stop myself. He looked straight into my eyes then, a moment stretched between us filled with unspoken understanding, and suddenly it felt like we were teetering on a precipice once more. "I miss her every day," he continued softly. "But sometimes, I wonder if there's still room for connection in my life." The air thickened around us as those words hung heavily between us like an unbreakable thread binding our fates together in ways neither of us fully comprehended yet longed for desperately. Just then, my phone buzzed again on the table. Jack's name flashing across the screen made panic surge through me like ice water coursing through veins frozen by fear of discovery or betrayal lingering just beneath surface tension threatening to break free any moment now. With trembling fingers, I silenced it quickly before glancing back up at him, his expression unreadable but filled with concern and curiosity intertwined seamlessly together creating something new yet terrifyingly familiar too. "What's wrong?" he asked gently, concern laced within every syllable spoken reverently almost sacredly shared between two souls lost searching desperately seeking solace anywhere they could find it, even if only fleetingly. "Nothing, it's just..." My breath hitched as uncertainty clawed its way back into focus. The realization that this connection we shared was both beautiful and dangerous weighed heavily upon me now more than ever before. We fell silent again as if waiting for something monumental to happen, an acknowledgement or maybe even some kind of resolution, but instead found ourselves trapped within this bubble created solely by our mutual longing for companionship amidst overwhelming loneliness threatening to consume everything whole leaving nothing behind but echoes lingering hauntingly forevermore. And then it happened? A chance meeting outside changed everything irrevocably altering course set forth long ago leading toward inevitable confrontation awaiting just around corner waiting patiently until we were ready face truth head-on without fear or hesitation holding us captive anymore. A figure appeared outside, the unmistakable silhouette of Jack approaching swiftly toward entrance unaware completely oblivious what awaited him inside. My heart raced anew. Not merely from shock but sheer terror gripping hold tight squeezing breath away suffocating slowly under pressure building steadily rising higher until finally bursting forth into open air demanding release from confines trapping emotions inside desperate yearning. Escape route paved carefully along paths traveled far too often already without resolution, sought desperately, still lingering somewhere beyond reach, always just out, grasped forever elusive no matter how hard tried. Grasp, hold tightly, never letting go. What would happen next? Would Jack sense what lay hidden beneath surface? Would he confront either one of us regarding secrets kept locked away deep down, buried beneath layers upon layers built over years spent together, struggling against tides pulling apart, slowly eroding bonds once thought unbreakable, now fraying, edges threatening unravel, completely exposing raw truths underneath, waiting finally revealed. The door swung open wide, allowing Jack entry into our world where shadows danced playfully around corners, waiting patiently, awaiting revelations soon coming forth, leaving nothing untouched, forever altered, irrevocably changed. The air thickened with tension as Jack stepped into the room, his presence both grounding and unsettling. I could sense the weight of unspoken words hanging between us, a fragile thread stretched taut. My heart raced, caught in an emotional whirlwind that threatened to pull me under. "Where were you?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with an edge of concern. The question hung heavily in the air, echoing the doubts that had plagued me since our return from Asheville. "Just out for a walk," I replied, my tone casual, but inside I was anything but calm. Memories of those stolen moments with my father-in-law flooded my mind, his laughter, the warmth of his gaze, and the undeniable connection we had forged in secrecy. Jack's eyes narrowed slightly as if searching for something hidden beneath my surface. "You've been distant lately," he continued, his voice softer now but still probing. "Is everything okay?" I hesitated, grappling with my thoughts. How could I explain the emotional void that had led me to seek comfort in someone else? The truth felt like a jagged rock lodged in my throat, too painful to swallow yet impossible to ignore. "I'm just tired," I finally said, hoping to deflect his concern. But even as I spoke, I could feel the fissures widening between us. The intimacy we once shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by a chasm of misunderstanding and unvoiced fears. As Jack moved closer, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability in his eyes, a reflection of my own turmoil mirrored back at me. "I don't want to lose you," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know things haven't been easy lately." The sincerity in his words struck me deeply. It was an acknowledgement of our struggles that resonated within me. Yet beneath that sincerity lay an undercurrent of desperation that made me uneasy. What did he truly know about my heart? What secrets had I buried so deeply that even he couldn't reach them? "I don't want to lose you either," I replied softly, feeling the weight of our shared history pressing down on us both. As we stood there in silence, memories swirled around us, moments filled with laughter and love now overshadowed by unfulfilled desires and unspoken truths. The warmth of affection lingered like a ghost haunting our interactions. But then came the reminder of what lay beyond this moment, the reality of what had transpired during our getaway in Asheville. My thoughts drifted back to those late-night conversations with my father-in-law, how they had ignited something within me that had long been dormant, a longing for connection that transcended familial boundaries. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the counter beside us, a jarring intrusion into our fragile moment. I glanced at it instinctively and froze as I saw who was calling, Robert. My heart raced again, not out of excitement but fear. What if Jack saw it? What if he knew? Would this be the moment everything unraveled? Jack noticed my sudden change in demeanor and followed my gaze to the screen displaying Robert's name. His expression shifted from concern to suspicion in an instant. "Who is it?" he asked sharply. It's just an old friend," I stammered, trying to sound casual while every fiber of my being screamed otherwise. Jack's brow furrowed deeper as he studied me closely. There was no hiding now. The truth was clawing its way to the surface whether I wanted it or not. "Why are you so nervous?" he pressed further. "I'm not nervous." The lie slipped out too quickly. Panic surged through me as I tried to maintain composure while feeling exposed under his scrutiny. He stepped closer again, invading my personal space with intensity as if trying to peel back layers until all would be revealed, until nothing remained hidden between us anymore. Answer me, he insisted quietly but firmly. I glanced at my phone again. The call was still ringing insistently, each chime resonating ominously through the air like a ticking clock counting down toward inevitable consequences. I need to take this, I finally blurted out before turning away from him and answering before Jack could protest further. Hello? My voice trembled slightly as Robert's familiar tone filled my ear, a stark contrast against the brewing storm between Jack and me. Elizabeth, Robert began without preamble, we need to talk. The urgency in his voice sent chills down my spine. It felt like a warning bell tolling for all that was left unsaid between us. The secrets threatening to spill over into daylight where they could no longer be contained within shadows cast by fleeting moments shared away from prying eyes. Can we meet? He continued insistently. It's important. I glanced back at Jack, who stood there watching intently. Confusion and hurt etched across his features, a silent plea for clarity amidst swirling chaos surrounding us both, now threatening everything we held dear together. A fragile tapestry woven over years slowly unraveling before our very eyes. I can't right now, I managed to say through clenched teeth while trying desperately not let fear seep into every word spoken aloud, hoping against hope this wouldn't lead down paths already traveled once before. But deep inside another part whispered softly, reminding me choices made would echo long after decisions taken, leaving scars behind, shaping futures unknown yet inevitable. As Robert pressed for answers on why we hadn't spoken since returning home from Asheville, the reality hit hard. This wasn't just about him or Jack anymore. It was about me confronting truths buried deep within myself, refusing longer remain hidden beneath layers built over years spent avoiding confrontation, instead embracing silence. And as Jack stood there watching, waiting patiently, I knew whatever happened next would change everything forever, leaving behind shadows where light once flourished, illuminating paths forward lost, now shrouded, uncertainty looming large ahead, beckoning forth choices demanding attention.